Okay, good evening everyone, and thank you all for coming out tonight to our community information webinar on the Solar Neighbourhoods program. So my name is Lexi. I'm the Climate Change and Sustainability Program Lead at City of Newcastle, and I'm hosting this session tonight on behalf of my colleagues at Macquarie City Council and Maitland City Council, and also 1KOMMA5, our delivery partner for the Solar Neighbourhoods program. And a big welcome to Grant tonight, who will be joining me tonight as a co-presenter. So to kick off tonight, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we all live on, the Awabakal, the Worimi and the Wonnarua people. And I'd like to pay my respects to elders past and present, and extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders dialing in with us tonight. So thanks everyone for coming tonight. We've got a jam-packed session, so we'll kick off right away. But tonight we're going to cover off a few different topics. So I'll kick off with a little bit of background information for you around why 3 councils, the City of Newcastle, Lake Mac and Maitland City Council, decided to partner to deliver a community solar and battery program. And then I'll hand over to Grant, who is one of the directors at 1KOMMA5, to provide some education and some information about solar and batteries, what you need to know, how to size your system, and then dive more into the products that have been selected as part of the Solar Neighbourhoods program by your local council, and the warranties, what they look like, the different payment options that are available, and the other benefits that are offered as part of the Council Solar Neighbourhoods program. And then we'll dive into some more technical advanced topics like blackout protection for your batteries and how that works and how you can back up your home, for example, in severe weather events like we're experiencing today here in the Hunter, where I've heard news of Sydney potentially facing blackouts because of the high energy demand on the grid. So having that backup protection can certainly help with that. We'll also talk a little bit about electric vehicle home charging, if that's something that you might be interested in the near future, if you're thinking about getting an EV or you already have one. And we'll also cover off virtual power plants, which are a really exciting opportunity for people that have a battery or are thinking about getting a home battery, where you can actually share that excess energy that you have stored in your battery with your neighbours, with the local community, and earn additional income to help pay off your battery sooner or improve that return on investment. And then at the end, we'll have a bunch of time for Q&A, so to have all your questions answered. So in terms of a little bit of housekeeping for our webinar, everyone is automatically muted tonight, so that's to reduce any background noise, so you don't have to worry about that. Everyone's already muted, and cameras are also turned off for viewers, so you can just sit back and relax on your couch or wherever you are and listen in. So because we can't hear you and because we can't see you, in order to have your questions answered tonight, you'll need to use the Q&A function, which is available in Google Meet. And there's some instructions there depending on whether you're on your computer or whether you're dialing in from your phone or maybe your iPad. But you can generally just find some dots, click on that, and you'll find your way to the Q&A tool. You can type your questions in there as we're talking tonight, and then we'll have time at the end to go through those and have those answered for you. So to officially welcome you tonight, we will now share a short video of one of City of Newcastle's councillors, Councillor Declan Clausen, to share his opening remarks. And these are the same opening remarks that Councillor Clausen made last week at our in-person event that we had here in Council. So this video will just share a little bit about why City of Newcastle is participating in this program and why we're so passionate and committed to reducing emissions and supporting renewable energy uptake in our city and our region as well.
G'day, my name's Declan Clausen. Thank you so much for joining this session about our Solar Neighbourhoods program. For those who haven't met me, I'm a big fan of renewable energy and supporting our city to decarbonise without deindustrialising. As you may already know, the City of Newcastle switched to 100% renewable energy in our operations in 2020 with the construction of our very own 5 megawatt solar farm at Summerhill. Now, running a 5 megawatt solar farm is a little different to rooftop solar. We don't just have 8 or 10 panels, we have 16,500 of them. And instead of the urban comfort of managing a household, we've got livestock to tend to, including a small flock of sheep. It turns out they are excellent at mowing the grass below the panels. Now, council understands it's unrealistic to expect that every household in our city would become livestock experts, which is where our Solar Neighbourhoods program comes in. It's your chance to build and tend to a solar farm without needing to manage any sheep. It's also an invitation to help write the next chapter of Newcastle's story, the future of renewable power and energy independence in our city. The Solarhoods Neighbourhood program was born from community feedback. We heard you. We heard that the market was noisy, confusing and expensive. Novocastrians wanted to go solar, but were stuck between good intentions and hard economics. So we simplified it. Solar Neighbourhoods makes it easier to go solar and easier to afford. We've selected trusted products and installers, secured group buy discounts, and arranged enhanced terms to make the leap a little bit smoother. Importantly, this program aligns with the ambitious goals set by our Prime Minister, because installing solar and adding batteries and shifting to electric vehicles are no longer side projects. They are absolutely critical to reaching our targets. Here in Newcastle, we've set our own targets. We've set a target to be net zero for our council operations by 2030 and net zero for the city as a whole by 2040. But beyond the targets and the progress, there's a deeper reason that we're all here. This session isn't compulsory. It's a choice that homeowners are making for themselves, for their families, and for the future. So to those of you who've logged on tonight and that are willing to make that choice, thank you. Because this isn't just about a rebate or a program, it's about who we're becoming and the kind of city and country that we are choosing to be. People often talk about our climate goals in tons of carbon or in kilograms of hydrogen, but we know that real energy independence and security will never come from offshore wind farms or distant hydro stations. It comes from households like yours that are taking change. Those who deny climate targets love to talk about baseload power. They imagine the old world with big centralised generators, massive grids, and a handful of people that are in charge of all of the switches. But we know that the future isn't centralised. It's distributed and it's democratic. When a home like yours can almost run entirely on energy supplied by its own solar and batteries, that's not just good for our planet, it's good for our city, it's good for resilience, and it's good for sovereignty. That is power literally back in the hands of our community. And that's how we got here. Not through slogans, but through shared actions. Not waiting for change, but by communities building it together. Thank you to those that have joined us tonight that are helping lead that charge. I want to end these opening comments by saying a few thank yous. Thank you to the City of Newcastle team, to Heather, to Lexi and Devney, and our partners at Lake Macquarie and Maitland councils, as well as to the team at 1KOMMA5 for their work on this program, which has been more than 10 months in the making. But mostly, I want to say an enormous thank you to the residents who have turned up online tonight, who are willing to stand up in the region to fight for global environmental change through the quiet but powerful act of local solar resilience. Big movements don't start with noise, they start with neighbours. Thank you.
So that's a great video from Councillor Clausen, and it really explains why City of Newcastle is participating in this program. But I wanted to take a moment to share the perspectives from my colleagues at Lake Macquarie City Council and Maitland City Council for those of you joining and living in those local government areas. So for Lake Macquarie City Council, the strategic alignment is with the community aspirations that they've set out in their community strategic plan and their delivery program. If you go to the next slide, Grant. So Lake Mac have objectives to reduce greenhouse emissions and plan for climate risk and also for emergencies as well. And their operational plan sets out their actions that they're going to deliver to achieve those objectives. And that's namely running electrification and energy efficiency programs. And programs like Solar Neighbourhoods are a key part of those strategies as well. And for Maitland City Council, they adopted their first environmental sustainability strategy a couple of years ago, so 2 years ago exactly, actually. And in their third theme, Living Sustainably, they've got targets there to support the community to reduce its reliance on non-renewable energy resources, as well as a community and council target to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So you can see there by 50% by 2030, and then net zero by 2050. And they're already making great progress, or council itself has reduced their emissions by 40% since their baseline already. So Solar Neighbourhoods is an opportunity for all three of our councils to support our communities to build on the already significant uptake of solar and batteries in our regions and beyond. And solar and batteries are really booming across Australia. So you may not know this, but Australia actually leads the world in solar uptake. It's more popular than backyard pools in Australia, if you can believe it. So there's over 4 million homes with rooftop solar installed, and in our three regions, it's over 74,000 homes have rooftop solar. And now, since the Australian government's cheaper home batteries rebate scheme was introduced on the 1st of July, we're now seeing batteries following that path of exponential growth as well. So the latest statistics that I have from this week is that over 90,000 batteries have been installed since the 1st of July. So that's only in 3 and a bit months, thanks to that rebate program. And we're already seeing, as part of this program, most people are opting to choose batteries or solar and batteries as well. So that it really is quite popular. And the reason that we're seeing so many Aussies embrace rooftop solar and batteries is because solar is actually the cheapest energy in the world. So why wouldn't we want to power our homes with this free and clean energy from the sun? But don't take my word for it. I'm a big fan of the Barefoot Investor, and I'm a big fan of solar panels. So I was really pleasantly surprised to receive an email that the Barefoot Investor sent his 400,000 email subscribers last year, outlining that you'll get a better return from installing solar panels than you will from most other investments. And I've got a copy or an excerpt of the email that he sent. And it says in it that his only regret is that he didn't make the install sooner. So that's a great message from a big finance guru here in Australia. So despite the popularity and the high number of solar and battery uptake, there's still many in the community that haven't taken that step yet. And there are a few things that are holding them back. And at our three councils, it's actually the number one question that our sustainability teams get asked is, I want solar, I want a battery, I just don't know where to start. Can you help me? So we actually did some research and we dug into, well, what are the barriers? What are people having trouble with? And we came back with three main barriers that our residents are facing. So one is the upfront cost. It's still quite a sizable upfront investment that people need to make. The second is it's too complicated. It's very technical. It's overwhelming. Which product should I go with? There are so many options. Is this warranty good or bad? Is this good value for money? So people were getting stuck when they're looking at multiple different quotes, all for a different size system, all for different products, and they were basically stopping there, choice overload. And then the third is a general lack of trust in the suppliers and installers. Who do I go with? Are they going to look after me if something goes wrong? So we listened to that feedback and we decided to develop a program that would address these three barriers. And what we needed to do was to undertake a rigorous tender and due diligence process. So this is what councils need to do when they're procuring major goods and services for our own organisation. So we followed that same process in order to design and deliver this program and to select a preferred delivery partner to partner with to deliver this program. So that's exactly what we did, and we decided to join together to do that. So as part of this tender and due diligence process, which actually took us over 10 months to do, so this program's been a long time in the works, we assessed providers on their licensing and accreditation, on their industry experience. We assessed the product quality, warranties, the installation quality. We also looked at things like customer service, reviews, long-term customer support. And following that very long and extensive process, we selected 1KOMMA5 as our delivery partner, and you'll hear from them later tonight. So a little bit about 1KOMMA5. 1KOMMA5 is an award-winning top Australian solar and battery companies. They've got 15 years experience in Australia, and in that time they've installed over 64,000 solar and battery systems. So they're very experienced. And as I said before, they're also award-winning. So this year they were named the #2 battery installer and in the top 10 for solar installers in Australia. So a lot of accolades and accreditations that you can see there on the screen. But one thing that was really important to the 3 councils was making sure that local installers were used for this program. And we were really fortunate that 1KOMMA5 had existing partnerships with 4 local solar and battery installers that are based in the Hunter region. So these are qualified and accredited local installer businesses based right here in the Hunter region that will be doing all the installations as part of the Solar Neighbourhoods program, with 1KOMMA5 managing the whole process and being the point of contact for the whole program and into the future as well. So we decided to choose this model because it allows for scale and support while also having that local support and supporting the local economy as well. So when designing the Solar Neighbourhoods program, we went back to that research and we decided to have these guiding principles to help us design the program. We wanted to make it as affordable as possible for people. We wanted to make it really, really simple and it to be a trusted program. So how did we do that? In terms of affordability, we negotiated an additional $1,250 discount for residents in Newcastle, Maitland and Lake Macquarie for this program. So that's funded by 1KOMMA5. It's not funded by council. So that's an additional discount on top, over and above of all the other government rebates that you're able to access as part of this program. And another thing that was really important to the 3 councils was having an option for households in the community to pay these systems off over time with the savings from their new system. So if you're currently paying this for your electricity bill, you want to be able to pay off, your repayments need to be less than that. So you're making savings from day one. So that's something that is part of this program as well. And I'll leave it to Grant to dive into a little bit more detail about the payment options that are available through the program. So of course, there's streamlined access to the Australian government battery rebate as well. And there's also additional rebates and income that can be earned if you decide to sign up to a virtual power plant for those installing batteries. I'll leave Grant to provide a little bit more information about those in a moment. So in terms of trying to make the program as simple as possible, it really comes back to that due diligence process that I was talking about before. So the 3 councils have worked on this for over 10 months to select the products, to vet the installers, to review the warranties and do the negotiation on your behalf to make sure that you're getting great quality, safe products at a fair price, and then ongoing customer support. So we've done all that hard work for you. And we've made it even simpler by having 1 brand of solar panel and 1 brand of battery as well, and in 3 different sizes of each, just to make it really, really simple for people. And then, of course, we provide community education as well, like we're doing tonight and like we did last week at our in-person events for each council. So whether you want solar only, a battery only if you've already got solar, or both, if you want solar and a battery, you can do that through this program. And another great thing is that all the batteries include backup protection in the case of blackouts at no extra cost for residents. So this is really another really important piece for councils, that residents are protected in severe weather or heat waves like today by having blackout protection on their batteries, so they can still run their homes when the grid power is out. So all of that is included at no extra cost. Then we've got some add-ons as well that people might be interested in. So if you've got an EV or you're thinking of getting one soon, there are a couple of different options for home EV charging here. Additional backup protection if you want to have more circuits in your home covered, or if you need your whole of house to be backed up, that is an option. And then there's 2 options for virtual power plants as well, if that's something you're interested in. And the different options that we've chosen are, they're both part of the top 3 virtual power plants in New South Wales. Origin Loop is a really simple set and forget one with some guaranteed income. And the amber one is for those that want to be a little bit more involved and they're tracking their energy usage and want to make some higher returns from their batteries. And both of those will give you access to the additional New South Wales government rebate as well. And then in order to make the program trusted, as I said before, the councils have done the hard work for you. This program has market-leading warranties. So there's a couple that Grant will talk about that I don't think I've seen anywhere else in the market. So really great warranties to protect you for the long term, because these systems do last a long time, which is fantastic. 1KOMMA5 also will provide every Solar Neighbourhoods customer with 3 post-installation checkups. So this is for an additional peace of mind. So after a week, after 3 months, and then after a year, they'll remotely check your system to make sure that everything's working as it should. And they'll let you know if it isn't, and they'll fix it for you. Then, of course, there's the 5-year customer satisfaction guarantee, which Grant will talk about. And then in our contract with 1KOMMA5, which I should add is a zero value contract, when councils aren't actually paying 1KOMMA5 anything as part of this program. We've got KPIs in there, and you might be pleased to know that we don't have any KPIs around number of sales, number of installations. Every KPI in our contract with 1KOMMA5 is about customer experience, customer satisfaction, and customer support. We want to make sure that our residents receive excellent service and that they're really happy as part of this program. So that's our number 1 priority. Then if anyone on the call already has an old solar system that they're thinking about, maybe it's time to upgrade that, then we want to make sure that no old panels will be going to landfill as part of this program. So every single panel that is removed from a roof as part of the Solar Neighbourhoods program will be recycled at City of Newcastle's Summerhill Waste Management Centre through our partnership with recycler PV Industries as part of this program at no additional cost to you. So that's just another additional benefit to ensure that there is zero waste to landfill in terms of solar panels and inverters as part of this program. And that's whether you live in Lake Mac or Maitland as well. All 3 regions are covered. So how does the program work? Really simple process. We've got all the packages and the pricing online. You may have seen it, but if not, just search Solar Neighbourhoods and you can see all of that online. Then simply fill out the register your interest form. 1KOMMA5 will receive that, and within a couple of days, they'll give you a call to have a chat, a no obligation chat. So they'll ask about your energy usage, if you drive an EV, what you're interested in, and help answer any questions that you might have. And that will help them put together a personalised quote for your home in case you need any switchboard upgrades or there's add-ons that you might want to look at as well. So they'll give you that personalised quote. And if you are happy to go ahead, 1KOMMA5 will manage everything from there. So they will manage your installation, your after-sales support and after-install support. Your agreement is with 1KOMMA5 as well. So council's not involved or party to that agreement. Your agreement is with 1KOMMA5. And that means if you have any questions down the track or want some advice, 1KOMMA5 is your point of contact. So please don't call the council front desk. Our call centre staff will not know how to help you with your solar and battery or inverter questions. So the installation time at the moment is about 4 to 6 weeks. And in terms of target, so who can participate in this program? Homeowners, of course, but if you know a small business owner or you are a small business owner, small businesses are also able to participate in this program. So if you know someone or you are interested in putting solar on your business to reduce those operating costs from energy, you can absolutely do that through this program as well. And we do highly recommend that if you're a landlord, if you're a rental provider, consider installing solar panels on your rental property, not only to support your tenants with cost of living, but also to increase the value of your home as well. And there's some great research coming out from Cotality, formerly CoLogic, about how it does increase the value of your home more than the cost of solar panels. So there's some interesting research coming out around that. So the program is open until the 30th of November. So what does that mean? It means all you need to do before that date is fill out that register your interest form. You can still receive your quotes, your installation, all of that can happen after the cutoff date of 30th of November. But it just means that on the 30th of November, that register your interest form will switch over to a waitlist form for next year's program. But there is no guarantee that we will be running a program again next year. It'll all depend on the evaluation of this program. So if you are interested, I do encourage you to simply fill out that register your interest form. And the program will be independently evaluated by the University of Technology, Sydney, as part of Race for 2030's Energy Upgrades for Australian Homes program that we're participating in as well. So it'll be great to have that independent evaluation of this program. And I'd love for all of you to participate in that research and provide your feedback as well, whether you decide to participate in this program or not. Okay, so that's all from me. I'd now like to introduce Grant Ackroyd, who is the Director of Sales and Installations at 1KOMMA5. So Grant has led the installation of over 25,000 solar and battery installations across Australia. So very knowledgeable but busy guy as well, and absolutely an expert in this topic. Every time I talk to Grant, I learn something new. So he has a deep knowledge for not only the products and the technology, but also the energy market, which he'll talk a little bit about tonight, rebates and finance solutions as well, if that's something that you're interested in learning more about. And he's also really passionate about helping everyday Australians navigate the market and finding the best clean energy technology as well. So thank you so much, Grant. Over to you.
Thanks, Lexi. And yeah, again, thank you to everybody for giving up your precious time this evening to listen to us talk about the benefits of solar and battery and the sustainability goals that the councils have ambitiously are pursuing. I can really relate to a lot of the work that they're doing and really excited to be able to help as many people in the Hunter region reduce or eliminate the carbon footprint where possible. Obviously, the program itself is called the Solar Neighbourhoods program. We are going to talk a lot about solar, but I suppose to give some credibility to the length and the due diligence that the council took on the tender program, we started this program 10 months ago when the majority of the market was still talking about solar. Since then, there's been a fantastic battery rebate that has been announced, and I'm sure a lot of the people on this call will be asking questions or have question marks around that. So whilst it's not officially called the Solar and Batteries Neighbourhoods Programme, we can consider it so because we will talk a lot about battery systems. We, as a business, over the last 3 to 4 months have been doing about 95% of the business that we're actually doing at the moment is including storage, whether it be a new battery system onto an existing solar system or a battery and solar system to either replace, expand, or even starting from scratch for homes in all over Australia. So a very exciting time to be looking at this. But before we dive into to batteries and to the energy market and to VPPs, I thought it would be a really good opportunity for us to start right back at the very beginning, make sure everybody's coming from the same position of an understanding of how solar works and the benefits, And then we can start to take you on a journey of the solar industry, and hopefully how solar and batteries can make a big difference to your home in terms of reducing those outgoings and also making you more energy efficient. So at this point in the in-person events that we've done, there was a little bit more of a hands up who's got solar. Obviously, we won't be able to do that on the call, but as Lexi's mentioned, we're really leading the charge globally in terms of rooftop solar systems, and it's currently our largest form of generation in our electricity market. There's more solar generation or renewables are generated, particularly at the rooftop level, than any other type of generation, and that's a testament to how successful solar and the stimulus programs have been. But essentially, what solar does is it captures the sun's energy with panels on your roof, and it then converts that electricity via an inverter on the home into usable electricity. So DC electricity is generated and AC electricity is used in the home. Now, there's been a few different evolutions of how that electricity has been beneficial to people over the years. Way back when solar systems were first installed and subsidized in 2009, 2010, there was incredible rebate programs to install solar, but also even more incredible stimulus programs for what we call a feed-in tariff. So generally speaking, the solar systems produce electricity. That electricity would either then be used in the home to power your appliances and be considered free electricity, or you can actually sell it back to the grid, and that's this section of the image here. Sell it back to the grid, and then that's used to power other homes and businesses. And up until very recently, there's been some attractive, what we would call tariffs or feed-in tariffs for resupplying that electricity back to the grid. So if you were producing more electricity than you used, that excess would be sold back to the grid for a feed-in tariff. And when that electricity or that feed-in tariff was the most attractive, some people were getting 60 cents a kilowatt hour for that electricity, and then they were buying that same unit of electricity back, if you like, for half the price. So the messaging for people was sell as much of your electricity back to the grid. Don't use any of it at home. You're going to make a fortune. And that sentiment's still in the industry a little bit. People say to us, well, there's no point in me getting solar because I'm not going to make any money from it. And that's not the way solar is going to benefit most people these days. Solar will actually reduce your need to buy electricity, making you more self-sufficient. And instead of making you money, it will actually save you money. And if you've been a solar customer or a solar user, if you like, for the long period, you would have got into the solar industry around about this period when those super high feed-in tariffs were available and everybody was making a lot of money. Unfortunately, over the last 10 to 15 years, we've seen the feed-in tariff has dropped significantly, which over time has started to impact what we call the ROI, or return on the investment of a solar system. And if you look at the lines on the screen, you'll see this very sorry looking orange line here is Victoria. Victoria are currently sitting in a position where they have a standard feed-in tariff in the market of less than 1 cent. It's about half a cent a kilowatt hour, which is a far cry from the days of 50 odd cents a kilowatt hour. Now, as with anything, when there's change, there's a lot of different theories as to why that is. The government are trying to move the goalposts. Big business are ripping us off, and that may be the case in some things, but definitely not when it comes to solar feed-in tariffs. And to understand that, I think it's really important that we actually understand how our electricity market works and why those feed-in tariffs have been dropping. So on the next page, you'll see an image that has absolutely nothing to do with electricity. Electricity's best friend, water. As we all know, there's never been an incident or a problem when we've mixed electricity and water. So we'll use water in this analogy to try and explain the electricity market a little bit and some of its complexities. And we'll do that by looking at the three different elements within the electricity market. We have the generation, or how electricity is produced. Then we have the base level of demand, or the depth within the bathtub. And then at the bottom, we have the usage or consumption or the water exiting the bath in this analogy. So the reason we're using a bath is because it really highlights how important it is that we keep things level, we keep a certain depth or a certain amount of supply and demand in our electricity grid. We have multiple different taps that we can call on to be able to produce that electricity. And some of them are available in real time, like gas, for example. It's a very, very quick ramp up and it can be used to support the grid in a time of high demand. We have coal. There's various different types of coal. Obviously, it's one of the more polluting versions of fuel of generation, but that's a much slower burn. It can't just be turned on and turned off quickly, and that's that baseload that Declan mentioned earlier on in the presentation. And then we have the renewables, which are incredibly powerful, incredibly abundant, but also not at our beck and call and not available all of the time. On the other side, we have demand, which really fluctuates across the day, and it fluctuates quite significantly. So if we don't get the supply and demand balance right, what we can actually find, similar to Lexi mentioned at the start of the call, where we have a very unstable electricity grid, we have things like brownouts, which are periods of the day where there's enough electricity, just not for everybody all at once. And we start really seeing those headlines of, unstable grids, lack of investment in infrastructure, and a very, very poor user experience for you and I, which is unstable electricity supply and unstable electricity price. And the reason that we have that is something called the demand duck curve, or the solar duck, or any form of insert renewable and duck. And if you squint your eyes and turn your head to the side a little bit, you might see the faint outline of a duck on the image on the left. And that's partly because we've put an image of the duck on the left, but also because this is the shape that our electricity grid is beginning to form as we add more and more levels of renewables, which is the production in the middle of the day. And then we have less standard demand or production available to us, like coal-fired power stations in the peak period. So as we retire more and more fossil fuel burning power plants, and we saturate the market with more and more renewables here, that rooftop solar system that's producing in the middle of the day, what we tend to find is that there's actually, in some cases, too much electricity available in the middle of the day, meaning the price of electricity in the middle of the day drops below zero in some cases. And to explain that a little bit more, what we actually have is we have an electricity market which is very much like the stock exchange. It is bought and sold in 5-minute intervals, and the market price is dictated by those two things, supply and demand. So what we tend to find, if we look on the right-hand side, through the middle of the day, when we have a really high supply and a very low demand, we actually see a very, very low wholesale cost of electricity. But then in the peak periods of the day, morning and evening, we have a much higher wholesale electricity cost. And that is now meaning that there's much more volatility in the market. Retailers are starting to change how they charge you for your electricity. And we're seeing a significant increase in energy plans, such as time of use tariffs. And New South Wales actually has the most time of use tariffs of anywhere in the country. There's over 750,000 people currently, or as of last year, in New South Wales that are on time of use tariffs. Meaning, even if you've done the right thing and you've bought a solar system and you've got rid of your need to buy electricity in the middle of the day, you've saved money, you've got a very, very cheap electricity cost, the power prices that you acquire power here and here are now actually doubling in some cases, and your electricity bills are creeping back up, but you're using half of the electricity that you used to use. So what the mission is we have to be able to align our electricity usage with when it's available, when the production's there, when the cheap and clean electricity is there. And there's a couple of ways we can do that, but the most obvious way is to shift our usage patterns and put storage in place. So if we can soak up a lot of this cheap and clean electricity in the middle of the day, and we can shift that usage a little bit later in the day, and then use the electricity from our batteries, for example, or from solar systems. If possible, we're going to see a much more stable electricity grid, a much more consistent electricity price, and a much cleaner and greener future. So hopefully we've not made that too complicated. What does it mean for you? It means that whether you're coming into this from a position of looking at a first-time solar customer, you're looking at adding a battery to your existing solar system, or you are in a fortunate position that this is your first time ever looking at it and it's super excited, or you're just adding to an existing system and increasing the size. We're looking at solar and batteries. We're always going to be talking about the same type of terminology. And I think it's important that if we understand some of that terminology or the jargon, then we are going to make much more informed decisions. We are going to understand the solution that we are offered, and we're going to be ultimately much happier as a result. So the first piece of terminology that we really have to get our heads around is kilowatt versus kilowatt hours. Now, again, let's turn to water. Let's keep the theme consistent. If we look at a kilowatt, it's the power. It's how much power there is available in real time, or if you think about a hose pipe, how much energy can flow or how much water can flow through the hose pipe at any given time. Can you just about get your car with the hose pipe, or can you squirt your neighbour's washing and have a bit of fun? So the bigger the kilowatt, the more power you've got. And take that back to solar. Our average solar system as a business is about 8.6 kilowatts. So not quite as big as the solar farm that the Newcastle Council have been able to establish, but we're getting there. So it's an 8.6, 8.7 kilowatt solar system. And that's about 23, 24 solar panels. But that solar system can actually produce multiple kilowatt hours of electricity. So if we look at a kilowatt hour, that is the amount of energy that's available, or in terms of the bucket, the capacity, how much water can it hold, how many liters of water can it hold, or if we talk about a battery, how many kilowatt hours of electricity can I store. So you would talk about your solar system on the roof as having a 6.6 kilowatt solar system, and you would talk about your battery as having a 20 kilowatt hour battery. So kilowatts is power, kilowatt hours is energy. If we make that a little bit more relevant to what we're talking about, we talk about a kilowatt in terms of the power of an air conditioner. You might have a 2.5 kilowatt air conditioner. So if it runs, it's going to draw 2,500 watts. If it runs for 4 hours consistently at full power, then it would consume 10 kilowatt hours of electricity. And if we take that back to our packages within the program, the smallest battery that we have available on the program is a 9.6 kilowatt hour battery, and the largest is a 19.2 kilowatt hour battery. So on the largest battery that we have, you could run a 2.5 kilowatt air conditioner for 8 hours consistently at full power, but you would never really do that as aircons ramp down. So sizing is a very, very important topic. We really have to consider the size of the solar and battery system. And once you understand the basic jargon, then you can start to understand, well, how big of a solar system do I need? What kilowatts of solar do I need, Grant? And then how big of a battery do I need? And what kilowatt hours of battery do I need? So that's going to come down to, firstly, how much energy your household uses. One of the things that we find in the industry is people say, well, my neighbor bought a solar system and that's done heaps better than it's done for me. Well, that's because every home's different. You may have different usage habits, different usage requirements, and it's really important that we consider that. So firstly, we have to establish how much energy your household uses. Once we've established that, then we go, okay, well, you've got your solar system is covering your daytime use. How much energy or solar electricity is actually then available to charge a battery? Because it's all well and good having a really big battery. The Cheap Home Batteries programming is available for batteries up to 50 kilowatt hours to be subsidized in 100 kilowatt hours in total. So having a really, really big battery is awesome. But if you don't have the solar or electricity available to charge it, you've got a problem. We then need to establish how independent do you actually want to be from the grid. Some people are happy to just get rid of that peak evening usage and cover maybe a 24-hour period of electricity consumption. And then others, increasingly more so, are wanting to become almost deconnected from the grid or disconnected from the grid and fully self-sufficient for a number of days. And we can really do that if we size the systems right, but we have to consider the depth of discharge that's available to you. And why that's important is battery technology's come a very long way. In the past, we had lead acid batteries. They would be wet, what we call a wet cell battery, and you could really only charge them or discharge them to about 50% before you started to damage the cells. Whereas modern battery technology is actually much more advanced. In most cases, you actually have 90 or 100% of the battery capacity available to you, meaning when you buy a 20 kilowatt hour battery, you get all 20 kilowatt hours of that. And then finally, once we've ticked all of those things off, well, how much can you afford? What's your budget? The good news is that thanks to the Cheaper Home Batteries program, batteries are much more affordable. It's super important, though, that we differentiate the difference between cheap and cheaper, because cheap's not good and good's not cheap. But a good quality product that is now more affordable or cheaper, thanks to a government program, is really an exciting topic to discuss. So do make sure that if you do decide to go ahead and it's not within this side of the program, don't be tempted too much by the shiny price tags that are on a lot of things, because ultimately, yeah, again, cheap is not good and good is not cheap. So once we've ticked off your system sizes, we really have to go, well, how big should your battery be once we know all of that? And that comes down to that motivation. It's, do you fit into one of the two camps? So we have number one and number two. Number one would be self-sufficient. You're covering your average daily consumption, you're covering your usage, and you've got, say, a 10% buffer just in case there's not enough sunlight to cover maybe charging that battery as normal. The second option or solution that's available to you is to go bigger, oversized battery or solar and battery system, and actually give yourself more freedom, more protection, and a little bit of flexibility to actually make a little bit more money over and above just reducing your electricity costs by maybe trading energy back to the grid with a VPP, or let's say a wholesale energy plan, like a couple of the programs that we've suggested, and we'll talk about them a little bit later on. You can power your home for longer if you go for a much larger system. So, you know, battery usage, consumption sizing is very personal. It's all dependent on how much you actually need. But by going with a much larger battery, you're protecting yourself for the future. And you're also giving yourself the ability to operate almost independently for days or even weeks in bad weather events. And, you know, up and down the East Coast over the last 12 months, we've had two once in a 100-year weather events in 12 months, which have caused some severe problems within our electricity grid. And then we have those instability issues that we talked about ourselves. So we can decide to be self-sufficient or flexible, a bit more freedom. And then once we've established that, we then have to go, well, okay, I want to be flexible. I want to have the freedom to choose. I want to trade a bit of energy. Can I actually charge it? Can I charge my battery every day? I've got a 50 kilowatt hour battery thanks to the government program. But can you actually fill that battery up? Do you have enough electricity available to you? And there's two ways in which we can achieve that. So option one is the conventional way of charging your battery with the excess solar. So if you go all the way back to the very first slide that I presented, we had the sun producing electricity through the panels, powering the home, and then going back to the grid if not needed. The battery would slot in between the home and the grid, and it would soak up that extra electricity that the home doesn't need in the sunlight day. And then it would use that to power the home at night versus buying expensive and dirty power from the grid. So ideal scenario is you have a large enough solar system that you have enough excess power to then charge that battery for evening usage. But if you're in a position where you have, you know, a very small roof space, you have a lot of shading, a big solar system is not available to you due to budget, environmental factors, or whatever the reason may be, you can actually now charge your battery from the grid for very, very cheap, or in some cases even free, thanks to those time of use tariffs that we talked about earlier on, where energy is a lot cheaper in the middle of the day, or actually thanks to a wholesale power plan where you can soak up a lot of that electricity that, say, your neighbours aren't needing and they're sending back to the grid for very little. You can soak that up and charge your battery. So there's always a few options to these things, and you know, there's as you can see, there's a lot to consider when it comes to, well, what's the package for me, what's the size for me, what makes sense. And that's where we as a business believe it's super important that we have a one-on-one conversation with you and understand your energy needs and what's going to be right for your home. So by now we should understand what solar does, we should understand how batteries operate, maybe how to size our batteries and how we're going to fill them. But if we don't consider the size of inverter that we're actually going to couple with our solar and battery system, we actually have a little bit of a problem. So again, I promise the final water analogy, if you consider your inverter as the tap, you might be able to have a high power rate or a lot of flow. You might be able to store a lot of capacity or energy, but the inverter in your system is actually a tap and it's a gate between the battery and the generation. So what we're seeing at the moment with the Cheaper Home Batteries program, the program that's been put in place to stimulate the battery adoption rates, it's done a fantastic job of that, but it really does allow customers to add batteries of up to 50 kilowatt hours that are rebatable and 100 kilowatt hours of storage on the property. Now, what that means is that the average battery is really, really creeping up. So that the government did the sums on about a 12 to 13 kilowatt hour average battery size. The current national average under the program is about 20 kilowatt hours, or just below that 20 kilowatt hours, so almost double what the government had predicted. And our average as a business is actually around 27 kilowatt hours of storage. So our average is well and truly over double. The national average is around double. And what that means is if consumers or customers, homeowners like yourselves, aren't considering things like the inverter size, you could end up with a very, very big and, you know, in some cases expensive battery system that really isn't capable of being used. And if we look at the image on the left, we have the example of a 5 kilowatt inverter and a 50 kilowatt hour battery. Now, a 5 kilowatt inverter would need around about 10 hours of constant sunlight to charge that battery or discharge that battery. In Australia, the average number of sunlight hours that we get is around about 4.2 hours. It's obviously more in summer, and it's more the further north you get, and it's less in winter, and it's less the further south you get. But on average, 4.2 hours of sunlight. So you can see that this scenario doesn't really work very well. Bit like getting a Ferrari and only being able to use it at 60 k's an hour. It'll look nice, but it won't really be very functional. On the right hand side, we have a much better scenario of a 20 kilowatt hour battery with a 5 kilowatt inverter. And that means you'd be looking about 4 hours of sunlight to charge that battery up. And that's going to happen almost every time. Obviously, you could increase the size of your inverter or you could reduce the size of the battery and get the same result. So I guess the reason we wanted to talk about this is really to lean into that education piece that Lexi and the councils have been so focused on, is to make sure that people that do move forward with a package understand all elements of it, why systems are being recommended, and what the benefits are. So to talk a little bit about the packages, hopefully we've gone through the education piece. If we go through the simplicity, it was really important to the council that there was a low barrier to entry for customers. So they didn't have to think about all of those sizing things and what makes sense for me. They were given 3 very simple packages for each solution: a small, medium, and large. And that's for a solar only system, a battery only system, and a solar and battery system. So the prices that you're seeing on the screen are actually available on the website. There's no hidden figures or hidden costs. The cost is the cost, and that's the baseline that you would be looking at. It's definitely not the cheapest system in market, and it's not designed to be. It's a quality system at an affordable price with a wonderful aftercare, which is super important when looking at solar and battery systems. And there is the option, as we said, to pay the system off monthly, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. Solar and battery systems aren't a cookie cutter solution, so they're not a one size fits all. They're not a set and forget solution, and it is really important that we're aware of that when talking pricing, so that if you do take the step, take the leap, and carry on in the journey of electrification with 1KOMMA5, you understand that there are going to be some potential additional costs once we've done a site assessment before we move forward to installation. That site assessment can be done either virtually or in person. And the most common costs are going to be the property type. So is it a single or a double story home? Obviously, if it's double story, it's going to be much more complicated. It's going to be a longer cable run, but we can definitely accommodate that. It could be the roof composition, and the most complex of those is terracotta tiles, which is also one of the most prevalent in the Hunter region. It's not to worry though, it doesn't mean you can't get a solar and battery system. It just means you need to select a provider that has experience with that. And we also take additional care and provide replacements. One of the first programs that we did in the program, so one of the first systems that we did in the program actually was a terracotta roof. So we are specialists at doing that. And then finally, would be something like switchboard works. So not every switchboard is compliant, not every switchboard is suitable of taking solar and battery systems, and it's really, really important that we set the property up for success. So there could be instances where maybe a little bit of switchboard work would be needed to ensure compliance. And also, as Lexi mentioned, all of our solar and battery packages, or battery packages to say, include essential circuit blackout protection or 3 circuits in the home. So that's included in the system. But if you do decide to opt for additional circuits on backup with emergency power should the grid go out, then we would have to upgrade the switches to a more up-to-date version of a safety switch. And our consultants can speak to you in a little bit more detail individually once we have the pleasure of helping you on the journey. Other costings that may come up or may be an option to add to the solar and battery system are, of course, electric vehicle chargers. EVs are obviously increasing in popularity, and having a large solar and battery system means that you can actually charge those from your home, remove your fuel costs, and then really increase the savings in the home. We have 2 options: a SunGrow system, which is in line with the solar and the battery and the inverter brands that have been selected. And then we also have a slightly more advanced version of the EV charger, which is what we would call a smart charger. And to give you an idea of the complexities of the electricity market, the one on the right has over 14,000 electricity tariffs preloaded on it. So if you do partner with one of those tariffs that have, cheap charging through the middle of the day, you can actually use your EV to take advantage of some of those cheap and free electricity costs. So jumping into brands, there's hundreds and hundreds of brands of everything in the market, and some are really, really good, some are really, really not. And it's important that you do know what you're looking for. So council were very specific when they requested the brands within this program. I want to be clear, we actually didn't select the brands. We were very, very happy with the selection, do have a lot of experience with them, but these were as a result of some very, very detailed council research. And the solar panels, we've landed on the Canadian Solar 440-watt solar panels. Back in the day, solar panels would have had a 10-year product warranty on them, and pretty much all of those panels now would be out of warranty. Whereas thanks to advancements in technology, the panels now have a 25-year product warranty on them. Think of that as your physical warranty. And they also have a 30-year performance warranty. And what a performance warranty is it means that over 30 years, Canadian Solar guarantee that their solar panels will produce a certain efficiency based on the age. And I believe that efficiency rate off the top of my head is around 1% reduction in year 1, and then no more than 0.5% reduction in efficiency each year for 30 years, which I think lands you around about the sort of 87% mark after 30 years of production. which is an incredible warranty and insurance policy. It means your system's going to be producing for long into the future. Some of the other features within the product is they, again, have that low power degradation, which means they do yield a much higher amount of electricity. And then the biggest one, and obviously for Australia, is a super low temperature coefficient, which basically means that under higher temperatures, electricity or electrical components usually reduce in efficiency. But due to the Canadian Solar's design, a dual glass panel, it actually performs much better, even in higher temperatures. So you really get more bang for your buck. And then finally, I've been told time and time again, you can't call solar sexy. I disagree, particularly when you're looking at the all black 440 watt panels. They genuinely are like a silhouette, like a glass or a black mirror on the roof, meaning aesthetically, they're much more attractive these days than what they were 10 or 15 years ago when they were big silver frames and blue modules. They now have at least a nice look to them, which makes it even easier to accept them and invite them onto your house. The batteries themselves, hot topic at the moment, obviously. It was important that we selected a product that was tried and tested in the Australian market. Sungrow is one of the biggest battery manufacturers globally and one of the most popular brands in the country. As Lexi mentioned at the start of this conversation, 1KOMMA5 have been awarded #1 battery installer in several states and #2 nationally. That was before the battery rebate was a thing, and we did that almost exclusively on the installation of Sungrow battery systems. So we're incredibly experienced and incredibly supportive of the Sungrow battery system. One of the cool features is that it is a modular design. So these individual packs, if you like, are 3.2 kilowatt hour solar battery systems. This one on the right is the 9.6. This one here is the 16, and then the 19.2 is just a touch bigger, a touch smaller than that, and that's the 25 in fact. But you can see the batteries scale in size. And why that's important is it means the products themselves can scale and grow with usage in the home. It is really important to mention the safety of these, because one of the biggest questions we get when we talk batteries is around the safety. I actually spoke to Sungrow's chief engineer in Australia, and they've got over 40,000 Sungrow battery systems installed, and they haven't had a single fire, which is very, very important, because that's, again, one of the topics people ask about. So in terms of safety, very, very safe. In terms of reliability, it's one of the most trusted brands in the market, and it's a very compact system that, again, can grow with your needs. One thing that is super important to mention is that the Cheaper Home Batteries program is a one-time only rebate. So unlike the solar system rebates of the past, where you could get them multiple times, the battery rebate is in fact a one-time only rebate, meaning if you buy the small battery now and you want to increase it in 12 months' time, you will pay full value for the increase, versus just future-proofing yourself now and going with the slightly larger battery up front, even if it's not necessarily needed at this case. Having the larger battery will give you that freedom, that flexibility, and access to the larger battery. And obviously, it's super important that we consider that. Now, we are going to do the Q&A at the end, but I did see a question pop up there, which is really relevant. The Sungrow batteries are an IP55 rated product, meaning they are rated to be installed indoor and outdoor. They have a very high level of dust and moisture protection. However, when installed outside, they should have a cover over them to stop them getting wet. They don't do very well in direct rain. And also, one of the most beautiful things about Australia is the weather, the sun, why we've done so well at adopting solar systems. But it also means that things that sit in the sunlight get absolutely hammered. And obviously, this is a sizable investment. So if you are going to put it outside, we would always recommend a cover to increase the longevity, and we can provide that as an additional extra. So batteries can go indoors or outdoors, just depends on your home and what's going to be the best situation for you. So to segue into a virtual power plant off the back of the increased battery size, I suppose, virtual power plants are a super hot topic at the moment. And the reason they're a hot topic is because they're going to make a massive difference in the instability that we have in the grid. If we talk about that bathtub analogy again, that instability of batteries that fluctuate up and down, we really need to have a supply or a generation tool that's available on demand. So what a VPP is it's a virtual power plant. Now think of a standard coal-fired power station as being a centralized generation tool. It makes all of the power in one place, and then it sends that power through very expensive, very inefficient transmission lines all over the country and then powers homes. The problem with doing that is you have to have that running and available all the time to be able to provide the power when it's needed. What a virtual power plant does is it actually allows people to turn their batteries particularly into a mini energy station or power station. It allows energy companies or technology companies these days to actually connect all of those batteries together, turn them into one large decentralized power station. And then when the grid is in high demand and we see those peak periods of the day, they can coordinate the discharge of all of those batteries back to the grid and provide real-time power at the place it's needed, not thousands of kilometers away, and they can do it almost immediately. And the advantages of that is, firstly, it stabilizes the electricity grid, but it also means that people can make additional money by trading their energy back to the grid. So if we go back to this analogy here, to the duck, sticking with the farmyard theme that Declan introduced earlier on, you will see that the high demand periods and the low demand periods correlate with the high price and the low price. So what virtual power plants do is they allow us to really incentivize people, particularly in homes, to add a slightly larger battery system, make that battery system available to the grid when it's needed, and then sell that energy back to the grid to turn the homes into a mini power station, if you like, and then receive a financial benefit for doing so. So there's a few different ways that happens, but essentially you can actually get paid for soaking up the electricity here, and then get paid for selling that electricity back to the grid there in an ideal scenario. And why that's really, really important in the energy transition is there's been a lot of talk about the Cheaper Home Batteries program being a program where only the rich people are going to benefit. Only people that can afford solar and battery systems are going to be the ones that actually see the benefit of this. But if we can install enough batteries and stabilize the grid enough so that this demand curve disappears and the consumption matches the production perfectly, then we're going to see the same happening in the pricing. And a stable price actually means a lower price because there's no risk, there's no volatility, and that means everybody's power prices should come down. But also as an added benefit to the financial benefits, we access not only cheaper electricity, but cleaner electricity, and therefore reducing emissions and making the planet a better place for future generations. So there's a lot of incentive to be doing this, whether it be environmentally or financially. And the Cheaper Home Batteries program, coupled with virtual power plants, is doing a fantastic job of that. So let's jump into the virtual power plant options that are available. I really want to start by saying we're not affiliated with either of these directly. We've had a lot of experience in batteries and virtual power plants for a very long time, and we found these two to be the best options. Both are independent energy retailers, so you would change your electricity retailer if you decided to partner with a virtual power plant once you'd had your battery installed. And the particular company, whether it be Origin or Amber, would actually take over the supply of your electricity from your current retailer. One of the exciting things about VPPs is the federal government have made the Cheaper Home Batteries program specific to products that are VPP compatible. You don't have to join a VPP to get that rebate, but you do have to have a product that is able to be VPP controlled. But the New South Wales federal government's also, the New South Wales state-based government have added a further rebate on top of that, and that's called the PDRS or Peak Demand Reduction Certificate. So by adding a battery and connecting it to a virtual power plant, not only are you going to get the solar rebate or have had the solar rebate, you would get the federal government battery rebate, you would get the Solar Neighbourhoods rebate supplied through 1KOMMA5, and then you would also get a fourth state-based rebate paid back to you after installation of anywhere from say $300 to $400 up to $700 or $800, dependent on the battery size that you select. So there's a lot of different financial incentives to do this. And then within the programs themselves or within the retailers themselves, there's additional financial gains. So think of Origin as the set and forget solution. Origin Loop allows you to connect your battery system to Origin's virtual power plant, and you'll get a $200 sign-on bonus in year one, or $200 for signing up. You will then receive an additional $200 over a 12-month period for trading your electricity back to the grid in a time when there is a demand. Now, you don't have any control with this. You don't deal with the trading or the selling of energy with Origin. Origin will decide when the market needs that power, and they will then sell that energy back to the grid for you and pay you $1 a kilowatt hour for it. They'll never take any more than 200 kilowatt hours from your battery, meaning you'll never get any more than $200 in trading credits. But in year one, you could be looking at $200 sign-on plus $200 in trading credits plus say $600 in VPP rebates, meaning adding a battery and connecting to Origin means you could be about $1,000 better off in year one, which is a pretty exciting concept. It does mean though there's not big upside available, whereas Amber, for example, is what we call a wholesale energy plan. Now, Amber operates a little bit differently to other retailers. They don't make money from selling you power, which seems counterintuitive if they want to be an energy company. But what they do is they've created a really intelligent software called Smart Shift, and that optimizes your battery and gives you access to the real-time wholesale electricity market, and you get to buy and sell electricity at the wholesale market rate. So to jump back one slide, in this image here, you can see prices jumping up to $80 a megawatt hour or 80 cents a kilowatt hour. In some cases, when the market is really, really in need of power, you could actually be selling your electricity here at say $16 or $17 a kilowatt hour. And we've seen customers make $200 or $300 in trading energy in a night. However, big flashing red warning lights and disclaimers, that's not guaranteed. It may not happen for 3 or 6 months in the year, or it could happen once a month for 3 months in a trot, and you would be in a really good position. So that's why we say the Origin solution is a set and forget, very secure, almost stable income, whereas the Amber wholesale model is a much more volatile, riding the market conditions, exciting, but kind of involved and in-depth solution. So our consultants can take you through both options. You also don't have to join a virtual power plant. In my opinion, it's one of the best things you can do to accelerate or optimize the usage of your solar and battery system, and even turn a small income or sort of passive income. We're not talking thousands of dollars, but a couple $100 here and there, which makes things a bit easier. And it really does support the grid and make things a lot easier for everybody else, really. So a couple of different things to think about, and we can talk you through all of the options when we have an individual conversation, or even when we do the Q&A at the end of this session. Please feel free to ask questions about either of those retailers. Rebates. We've talked about the Cheap Home Batteries program probably 10 or 11 times in the last 45 minutes. So let's talk about it specifically. What is it? It is a rebate program that is a pool currently of $2.3 billion, and it's intended to help participating households, businesses, and community organizations reduce electricity bills. It makes the most of the cheap and clean solar power that we've talked about by making batteries more affordable. Now, the government have marketed this as around a 30% discount. So the prices that we talked about on the packages are after all of the applicable rebates, other than the New South Wales state-based rebate that would be paid to you directly. But it does make solar and battery systems more affordable, and it's stackable on top of the solar system STCs or rebates that are already available for solar. So you can claim the solar rebate, you can claim the battery rebate, and you can do it all in one go. The rebate is dropping though, it's set to gradually decrease. So when the solar rebate first came out back in 2011 or 12, and then re-engaged and re-rolled out in around 2015, it was always set to actually drop in value every year until 2030. And the battery rebate is going to do the same thing. The first of those drops or reductions in the rebate value is actually set on January 1st. So you have to have your battery installed and commissioned by December 31st to claim this year's rebate. If you don't, if it's installed next year, then you would be looking at claiming next year's rebate, which is about a 10% reduction in the overall value. And on our average battery size, you're looking at about $1,200 or $1,300 less in terms of rebates, meaning around $1,200 or $1,300 more that would need to be paid. The slide here is a little bit old, but this was over 70,000 batteries have been installed at the time of putting this information together, which is over $500 million worth of rebates claimed. That's now 90,000 battery systems installed, meaning we're probably pushing up to around 600 or 600 million plus. And the reason why that's really important is the pool that's been assigned to this is currently 2.3 billion. And we're already down to about 1.7, 1.8 billion left in terms of rebates available. Now, nobody knows what's going to happen once that amount of money runs out. I'm sure the government has a plan, but the only thing that is certain is what's certain now, and that's that there's really no better time to do this. There's so many rebates and financial incentives to do this, and then a fantastic plan from the various councils to provide some credibility and some support to you guys to make the decisions. We're kind of in that Goldilocks period. So without coming across as a sleazy sales guy, if you don't do this now, you will pay more. But that's completely up to you guys. We're able to get these installed before Christmas and beyond, and obviously also able to give you completely impartial advice in terms of system sizes and financial incentives. So if you're going to do it quickly, and the benefits around the rebate being a one-time only rebate are that a bigger battery is a better battery because it's a more cost-effective solution in terms of scalability. But it all depends on your unique and individual situation. So I would strongly encourage you to speak to one of our specialists if you haven't already done so. Now, it's all well and good getting a rebate, but if you don't have $13,000, $15,000, $20,000 in the bank, how on earth are you going to pay for these? Well, that's why we've partnered with a green energy payment provider who's actually government-backed called Plenty. Plenty offer a couple of different payment options, and then we offer an upfront payment solution. So the most economical solution would be upfront payment. There's no interest, there's no fees and charges. It's the price. You pay the price, you get the system. It's now yours. Alternatively, you can access either a buy now, pay later plan, which is fantastic for certain people, but there's actually green energy payment plans or green loans that are available with incredibly low interest rates, in some cases as low as mortgage rates of around 6.5%, meaning you can acquire or you can access the installation of the system, start realizing the benefits of a solar and battery system financially from day one, and then pay it off similar to how you've been paying your electricity bills over anywhere from 5 to 9 years. And there's actually no penalties to pay the green energy payment plans out sooner. So if you did decide to take a payment plan over 5, 6, or even 9 years, you could pay it off as soon as you liked, and there would be no penalty to do that, making it affordable and easy to access right now. So when you speak to one of our specialists, do talk to them around the benefits of that and the options. They'll give you all of them and allow you to make an informed decision. And then finally, why would you deal with us? Well, Lexi and the team have done an awesome job of explaining who we are and what we do. But some of the things that we were really, really passionate about in the program, and one of the reasons the councils liked us as a business, is our commitment to the ongoing aftercare and support. So 1KOMMA5 is a global brand with a very long, rich history in terms of the Australian market, in terms of our businesses and the history of where our businesses have come from. But one of the big things was the aftercare and support. So 3 times post-installation checks. It's not just install this and forget about it. After 7 days, we will check the system and make sure that the system's performing as it should be, set up and operational. Then after 90 days, we'll do a system assessment and make sure that that system is producing you're using it as you should be, the sizing's correct, and we'll actually reach out to you and say, hey, Mr. Customer, fantastic news, your system's performing as it should be. There's no concerns. Or we might say, we've noticed an anomaly, or we think that you are using your system a little bit different to what you expect, or we expected, and let's have a look at it. So really trying to get you comfortable in the usage. And then a final check after 12 months. Make sure you've had a full year of use, a full year of benefits, and the system's doing what we expected, and then really help you optimize and even look at additional solutions like additional energy efficiency, heat pump hot water systems, EV chargers, or even just a bit of advice. So you get your 3 post-installation checkups. We also provide a 30-year workmanship warranty. Now, the industry standard is 5 years. The minimum that a business has to offer is 5 years, but that doesn't match any of the warranties on the product. So we looked at this and said, well, we're confident in our quality, we're confident in our longevity. It's important that homeowners feel supported for the life of the system, and the life of a solar panel is that 30-year performance warranty. So we said we'll match that and provide a 30-year workmanship guarantee. And in some cases, that's going to see a lot of people out in their homes, hopefully moving on to bigger and better things. But it does mean that you've got peace of mind of sleeping under a solar system or next to a battery system with the workmanship designed to last for over a quarter of a century. And finally, a 5-year satisfaction guarantee, which is unique to the program. It means that we offer a guarantee that if after 5 years you're not completely satisfied with the savings and the outcomes of the system, we will remove it and give you or refund you the difference between what you paid and what the system has saved you. And the reason that's so important is because we're putting our money where our mouth is. We're saying we're that confident in the solution. If it's not done what we said it's going to do and you're not happy, then we'll take it back and we'll refund you the difference or the out-of-pocket costs. And it's important to mention and to declare that that's not a case of if 5 years and one day you ring up and say, I've changed my mind, I don't want it anymore. There's a little bit more involved in it than that. But if over the period it's not done what we said it were going to do, you've not got the results and you've had a terrible time, then we will stand by that and provide you with the support and security that we promised. So all in all, not just the installation, that's where the journey really begins with us. And from there, we help you for the life of the system. So if we've done enough today to help you understand solar, understand batteries, and hopefully get enough out of today's session to take the next step, which is at least just speaking to one of our consultants, you have a few options. Option 1 is you can register your interest now online. You can do that by going to the website, which I'll show you in a moment. Option 2 is you can speak to one of our team members. A lot of the people on this call have probably already had preliminary conversations with the team. So reach back out to them, even if it's now. I promise you they will answer and they will answer your questions. And then the third option is you can scan the QR code on the screen, and that will give you the ability to register and lock in a consultation time a little bit later on at a time that's more convenient to you, and hopefully get some of those individual or personalized questions answered. And then finally, questions and answers are the Q&A section. So we are seeing a lot of questions that are being asked in the chat. What I'll do is I'll try and answer them all. So please do continue asking them. I might maybe ask Lexi to jump in on 1 or 2 if they're a little bit more council specific, and allow her to answer on behalf of the councils. But what we'll do is we'll answer them really in order. Maybe I've already answered a few of them, and if I haven't, then I'll do my best too. So the first question that we got is, are the prices quoted before or after the rebate? So as mentioned, the prices are after government STCs and the 1K5 discount, but not the state-based rebate. So that's the price to see is what you get, plus any of those variations if they're needed. Again, speak to the consultants regarding site-specific requirements. Do panel rebates drop every year? If I sign a contract to install panels in 2025, but installation occurs in early 2026, will I get the quoted panel rebate, or will the rebate drop and I'll be required to cover the difference? That's a really, really, really good question. And it depends on the installer. So I've heard stories of businesses that have signed, months and months and months worth of customers up and then installed them in the next calendar year and then sent the customer an invoice for the difference. Technically, it's within the contract that you take on with the installer. So with us, we will do everything that we can to get systems installed before this side of Christmas. If we quote you a price now and you accept a price now, then that's the price that we will lock in. So we won't pass that variation back on to you. There's full transparency. If you sign up for the price, if you know full well that the installation is going to take place in the new year, and you say to us, well, you know, I'm having my roof renovated and I can't do anything until February, can I lock in the price and get the rebate through the program? Absolutely. But we'll be transparent with you and say, well, we're going to price this based on 2026 pricing. So it's a conversation to have with the consultant individually, but we'll do our very best to get you installed this side of Christmas, so you get the benefits over summer when you're going to be hopefully using the aircon, because it's going to be a lovely summer. Will you work with people in Port Stephens Council to offer them the deal too? Well, we hope so. You know, we do want to partner with as many councils up and down the country, and hopefully if this program goes well and the research shows it makes sense, then we'll absolutely do what we can to get more councils on board. But I know the program discounts are only available to homeowners within the 3 council areas. But we as a business are a national organisation. We do operate in Port Stephens, and we would love to help you become more environmentally conscious and reduce your costs. So definitely speak to one of our consultants, and we'll do everything that we can. You know, you can trust the council's backing on the products and the company. We just have to look at, you know, unfortunately we wouldn't be able to offer that pricing. Lexi, do you have anything else to add on that, or do you think I covered it?
No, I think you covered it. Port Stephens Council weren't involved in this tender process, so they haven't been involved in the due diligence or this process. But there is nothing stopping you as a household from reaching out to 1KOMMA5 and asking for a quote on the products that are offered here. As Grant mentioned, they offered these products long before the Solar Neighbourhoods program. So if you are interested in a quote from them, please feel free.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Lexi. Next question would be, what is the physical size of the battery? And that's kind of how long is a piece of string, or how big is the battery that you want to install. They are super compact in terms of size. We have multiple different options, but really you're not looking at any more than probably about 1 to 1.2 meters in height if they're floor mounted. They're 660 millimeters wide, and they're around 380 millimeters deep. So if you think about a large suitcase when you go on holiday, that's probably about the physical space that it's going to take up for the medium size. But we can actually wall mount them or put them on special brackets to keep them up out of flood zones or unstable ground. And in some cases, you might need covers, or if it's going in a garage or let's say somewhere it can be damaged by a car, then you might need a bollard, which is going to increase the physical space or footprint that the product takes up. When you do get a proposal from one of our consultants, all of the dimensions will be on there. It will be fully transparent, and we can make it a little bit more clear for individual sites. Patty's asked, will trading credits reduce in value similar to how feed-ins in tariffs did? I really, really like that question, because that means at least one person in this was following on with the concept of trading credits of VPPs, and also the benefits of that. So yes, the goal is that we stabilize the electricity market. Prices are super flat. There's no volatility. Trading credits don't actually are actually needed. But, and it's a big but, that's a long way away. We've got a long way to go. We will also find that as more and more of our electricity generation is relied upon by things like EVs or batteries and solar systems, there's always going to be a financial incentive to reward the homeowners or the people that have actually paid for the infrastructure. If you think of the price of power, you pay a power company to generate that, they get compensated. If you think of your supply charge on your electricity bill, we pay the distributor like Ausgrid. They get compensated for managing the poles and wires. So why would a homeowner or an individual not be compensated for having the infrastructure in their home and then supporting the grid? So that's a very long way away, but I think the goal is to get to the point where they're not necessarily needed. Maintenance for solar systems or solar and panels involved. Can I do it myself, or do I need a professional? Well, the general maintenance for a solar panel or solar system would be to make sure that the wires, there's no damage in the wires visible. There's no physical damage to the system. You can still read the lights and access the app. You would want to make sure solar panels are clean. So shading, dirt, residue, water that's pulled on them can actually reduce the efficiency and actually damage the systems over time if not dealt with. So at least a clean every 6 to 12 months is definitely advisable, if not just to improve the efficiency and the production of the solar systems. And if you're comfortable jumping up on the roof, then by all means give them a wash. Don't use any harsh chemicals or detergents. I would really just recommend some clean water and a soft bristle brush or even a cloth. Don't walk on the panels, don't lean on the panels, because if you do that, you could damage the cells, get micro cracks, and then you're in a whole world of pain. So I would, if you're not comfortable dancing around on the roof, then I'd definitely engage a professional, but again, individual for sure. Lexi, I might just pop out there. I know we're potentially at the time, so if you'd like to keep answering questions, by all means, let me know. If you want to wrap this up and maybe get the recording out, happy to do so. I'd be guided by yourself.
Yeah, look, we still have a fair few questions to go and a few people still online. So if anyone does have to head off, I'll just quickly say thank you so much for joining and thank you for your time this evening. We are recording this session and we will send you all a copy of the recording. So if you did want to catch up on any additional questions, we'll keep going with the list, I think, Grant, if that's okay with you. But as in terms of wrap up, it's just a big thank you. We'll get you the webinar recording as soon as possible, and a big thanks to Grant and everyone for coming along tonight. But let's keep going with the questions because there's still quite a few people online.
Absolutely. So Claire asked, after north, is east or west the best aspect for mounting solar panels? Are there apps or AI available to model shading? Absolutely. So we access, and that's what we do our desktop evaluations through, multiple different softwares that will allow us to look at your roof profile, the orientation, the pitch of your roof, any shading, any obstacles that might impact production. In the good old days of solar system in the middle of your roof facing north, blasting out solar production and pumping it back to the grid for a high feed-in tariff was really, really the way to go. There's a saying in the industry which is north and west is the best, but really, in my view, having multiple orientations or panels on both or on all east, north, and west is really advantageous because it allows you to basically soak up sun for the entire day, cover generation for the entire day, and also charge your battery over a long period of time. And I think the team have suggested thanking Glenn for his input in the Q&A as well. It looks like he's jumping in there and answering a few questions on our behalf, which is awesome. Great to see some engagement from the team out there, and hopefully we can get a system installed at your place, Glenn, and you can maybe answer a few questions for us at the same time. Does the post-install support apply to battery-only installations? Absolutely not. Any installation that's done solar battery or battery would receive those benefits. It all starts with solar anyway, and we want to make sure all customers are supported. Are there any any benefits to batteries being physically closer to meter boxes and or EV chargers? How does the install process work? Does someone physically come to inspect the site, or is this done via photos? All great questions, Claire. Thank you so much for the opportunity to educate people a little bit more. So let's start with the assessment of it, the back of the question first. It depends on what's your preference. So we can do it all virtually. Again, thanks to the software that we use like Nearmaps and Pylon. We can get accurate production estimates, production forecasts, saving forecasts. And if you're able to provide us with enough detailed photos of your meter box, battery locations, and roof profiles, then we can do it all virtually. All of our systems are actually designed by the specialists. Then they're actually reviewed by what we call a CEC or SAA accredited designer. So we have electricians that are maybe more better suited to being in the office than clambering on roofs because they've been doing it for so long. They've got years of experience, and they're actually reviewing and changing all of the designs that our team push through to make sure customers get the best and most compliant systems. Once it's been past what we call the tech check stage by a CEC or an SAA designer, the installer actually does the same again, so they have to sign off on this. So there's multiple levels of checks and protection throughout the design process, meaning by the time the system's installed and operating, it's the best it's ever going to be, and you get a lot of protection. The benefits of having batteries physically closer to meter boxes and EV chargers are several. Less wiring, which means less cost. You know, if we have to run the backup circuits across a property, there's additional costs to do that because we have to use more cabling and more man hours. There is efficiency losses with the production of the battery, but they are quite minimal. I would say the main advantages of having them close is all of the electrical infrastructure is in one place. So if they ever need to be shut off or turned off, they're in one place. You know where they are, and it's an easier and cleaner and more cost-effective installation.
So I'll just jump in there, Grant, with an acronym check. So CEC is Clean Energy Council accredited, and SAA is Solar Accreditation Australia. Always got to pick up on the acronyms.
Almost got through the whole thing without geeking out. I apologise. So yeah, there's a couple of different governing bodies that are in place to protect and govern, and both of those acronyms that we used are those bodies, and they hold us to a very high standard, which is super important. With a backup circuits, are they just power circuits, i.e. do hot water, oven, AC count as a circuit in these numbers? Can they be added? Great understanding, Michelle, and yes, yes, and yes to all of the questions. So the essential circuits that we put on backup that are included are your basics, like you might have a kitchen power circuit that has your fridge and microwave on it, so you can still eat and keep your food cold in the blackout. You might have a couple of lighting circuits in the home, so you can still see in a blackout. So you've got, you know, cold beer and the lights on, and the neighbours are in the dark and you're having a party. And you can't have a party without music, so you want to get on the internet and get on YouTube. So we might put your internet on there so you're still connected. You can opt to increase the circuits that are on backup. And to do that, we would have to look at a slightly larger inverter to provide more of that power. But then you can put things like ACs on there if you really want, hot water and ovens, like induction cooktops, or for more of the rural or regional households, even, you know, water pumps for sewerage, or for water for flushing the toilet, for drinking, for washing. So we can really, with the SunGrow stuff particularly, we've actually got customers that are completely disconnected from the grid. They've got solar on the roof, they've got very large batteries and a backup generator, and they're not even part of the grid anymore. But that is definitely a niche installation. 99.9% of our installations are on grid, and there's a lot of advantages of doing that. But the SunGrow products have the capability of doing it, so you can back up pretty much your entire home.
So as part of this program, every resident that has a SunGrow battery installed, gets 3 circuits installed with backup protection as standard. So no additional cost as part of this program. So as Grant said, that could be your fridge, some lights, and maybe some power points, so you can still run your Wi-Fi, charge your phone, charge your laptop. You can still work from home. So that is included at no extra cost, and then there is the option to add additional circuits if you want that. And it's a really simple rate. It's $100 per circuit, and then Grant and the team can help you work out if you need that bigger inverter as well to support that.
Absolutely. Thanks for adding that, Lexi. Again, full transparency on any costings at the time of the quotation. So make sure, ask lots of questions if you do want to go down that route, and the team will be able to help you out. Bruce has asked, if choosing amber, do you set a limit of power to be sold back? Can you be left with no power in your battery? Again, really exciting that you're asking questions like that, Bruce, because it means you're listening and engaged, or at least, no, probably wrong terminology. I'm explaining it in a way that it's making sense, and it's prompting questions that are logical. You've got full control. So think of amber as a tool. You can use it however you want. I would make it simple and say you have manual mode, semi-automatic, and fully automatic. So in fully automatic, it's all powered by essentially a machine learning. My laptop's just running out of power, so I'm just going to plug you in. It's a machine learning model. So it's an AI-driven tool that allows you to learn the usage of your home and make the best decision for the household. So if the price of power is going to spike at night, it will make a decision to either preserve battery earlier on in the day to keep that electricity in there and buy a little bit from the grid when it's cheap, or it might dump that entire battery, and I say dump as in discharge to the grid very, very quickly to maximize and take advantage of that spike. Now, there is always a potential that it uses all of the battery, and I say all of it, they'll leave a minimum of 20% in the battery. They'll never go below 20% of the battery's capacity, so you always have a bit. But in some cases, it can actually make more economical sense to sell all of your power out of the battery at that peak time. Let's say you're getting $16, $17 a kilowatt hour for a 10 kilowatt hour battery. Could be $160 in credits. And then the price drops back down to 30 or 40 cents just a few hours later. And then you buy that energy back from the grid. So whilst you don't see the full $150, $160 that you've traded for, you might see $130 or $140 of it because you bought a little bit of electricity back with those credits. So that's the fully automatic mode. You then have the ability to control it within an app, which is you can preserve your battery, you can force charge, force discharge. So that's why we say the two options. The Origin is a set and forget solution. You never even have to look at your app. Amber, you can not look at your app. You can just leave it as it is, or you can be super engaged and you can be really in control of that, and that's a kind of pick your own adventure. And yes, the app can do all of the decision making for you. Amber actually quote figures of about 70 to 75% of their time Smart Shift gets it right. So there's 1 in 4 times it might make the wrong decision, but that's also including data for customers that aren't connected to Wi-Fi or don't have the systems online. So about a 70% strike rate is pretty impressive, considering that also takes into account customers that aren't even connected to the decision making. So it's really exciting. There is a risk if you don't have the power available and energy, energy available to power the house or sell it out, then you could buy energy back at that $16 a kilowatt hour. So it's just about being aware of the pros and cons, I suppose. And it looks like we've probably got about 3 more questions, and then we'll stop. So third from last is, if a roof restoration is performed in the future, are you able to give a very ballpark price for removal and reinstallation of the panels? Probably not, unfortunately, Clay. It would depend on your installation. It would depend on your roof composition. It would depend on a multitude of different things. I can on this call, but one of our specialists would be able to give you a slightly more specific answer when they have a conversation with you, because we'll know a little bit more about your individual setup. With that solar panel setup, if one panel is broken or shaded, are the others affected? Great question. We have, how do I explain this? Think about the good old days of Christmas tree lights or fairy lights. If one of the fairy lights went out, the whole system or the whole tree went out, and then you had to find the one that was out and replace it, and by then you hit Christmas and it was cancelled until next year. Solar panels used to work a little bit like that, but now they've got things in them called bypass diodes, and technology's really come a long way. So whilst one damaged or shaded panel will impact or maybe reduce the system performance a touch, it won't completely stop the system working, and you'll get an awesome result all the same. But one of the checks that we do is an assessment of the production that was predicted versus what you achieved. And if it's not within a certain tolerance, then we can alert you. We can have a look at that, start talking about it. Maybe it is a broken panel, maybe it's some shading or some dirt. So there's a few different things that can go into that. And then lucky last, another one from Bruce. With covering the battery outside, does the battery need airflow around it? Great question. You shouldn't, batteries don't have any moving parts or fans. They don't really generate heat. So covers are not overly a concern. The ones that we install actually have open sides. Batteries can get wet in terms of moisture, but they shouldn't be rained on or at. So the covers do allow air to flow through. The batteries are designed to operate at an ambient temperature of about 60, 65 degrees, which is, pretty warm. Inverters, however, do require really good ventilation, and one of the most common things that we see is improperly or incorrectly installed inverters with no airflow, and then you get overheating, which is ultimately reduced electricity production. So definitely consider that, particularly for the inverter. Batteries, it's more about ensuring they apply or comply to Australian standards, access and egress regulations. So again, speak to one of the consultants. We'll find a place on your property for sure. And look, to wrap up, I can see that already over 20 of you have already sent inquiries through our website for quotes, and we have a really big team. So if you haven't yet, please do lodge an inquiry over the coming days. There's really only 5 or 6 weeks left in the program to register your interest, and there's really only about 10 weeks for installation this side of Christmas to lock in this year's rebate. So if you're thinking about doing this, again, now is the time. We've got the perfect rebate storm, if you like. We've got perfect time of the year. I would argue that the council have picked the perfect delivery partner, and looking forward to helping as many people reduce their reliance. So yeah, thank you again for listening. I hope you've learned at least one thing and you take some value away from this. And I'm personally really looking forward to seeing your names drop into the installation queue and save some money on your electricity bills. And yeah, Lex, anything from you to close us out?
No, just to say thank you, Grant, for sharing all of your knowledge and wisdom and answering everyone's questions tonight. You've done a fantastic job. So thank you for that, and thank you for everyone for coming along and spending your evening with us. We really appreciate it. Have a wonderful night. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, guys, and I'll leave the QR code and the website on the screen for a few more minutes if any of you want to write it down, scan it, or lodge your interest. Really excited to speak to you soon.